Aloha, I'm Carolyn Tanaka and welcome to Live at the Legislature. Every week we're going to be sitting down with various members of the House of Representatives to talk about things of concern, and just what's going on here at the state capitol. This morning we're going to be focusing on the neighbor islands. Throughout the course of the series we'll be talking to some other neighbor island legislators, but today first up is Kauai Representative Nadine Nakamura. Welcome.
Aloha.
Nadine represents the Wailua to Haena area on Kauai Island, District 14. So tell me, what are some of the legislative priorities for the island of Kauai this session?
I think there's three major priorities. The first is traffic and traffic congestion throughout the Wailua-Kapa'a corridor. That's one of the big issues and concerns for many residents who live in this area. Anyone north of Wailua River has to contend with traffic. We have cones, contraflow 6 days a week because our roads were never meant to carry the population and number of visitors who are coming to our islands. The other issue is affordable housing, the lack of affordable housing, and the homelessness issue that's affecting all parts of Kauai and throughout the state. And the last issue, I think, is the increase in the number of visitors coming to the island and the concerns that people have about the impacts of those visitors. It's anticipated this year there's going to be a 40% increase in air seats to Kauai, and that's going to impact our island.
So is there any particular legislation that's moving forward to alleviate some of these problems?
One of the bills that I've introduced is to increase rental car surcharges so that we can direct some of the funds to our highway improvement program. So we have funds to add capacity in areas where we have the space to add capacity, as well as to look at the issue as something that we can't build our way out of this problem, that we have to work with our counties to run shuttle programs, use the existing public transit to redirect some of our visitors off of our highways, out of their rental cars, and into shuttles that take them to places that they want to visit.
And in the area of housing, we know that homelessness is a huge issue here on Oahu. On Kauai, how does it manifest itself? What are you seeing there?
I think there's a lot of hidden homeless. They're in remote areas, but they're also in our public parks, along the bike paths, in remote wilderness areas. And what we need to do more of is to provide the resources to the social service providers to create more temporary housing so that we can and we need to build a lot more affordable rental housing on our island.
Let's talk about this. You are the vice chair of the Housing Committee. That is a very important committee at any time, but particularly now. Yeah. So what are some of the initiatives that you're looking at as a committee statewide, and also anything specific for Kauai?
Yeah, I think we have strategies that meet the needs along the whole continuum, because there's a need of 65,000 new affordable housing units in the state of Hawaii by 2030. So part of that goal is to have strategies for people at different places along that continuum, from very low income to moderate income to market housing even. So the effort will be to focus on affordable rentals through adding funding to the rental housing revolving fund, which is what is needed to really close the gap between what families can afford and what it costs to develop housing. The other area that we want to focus in is the dwelling unit revolving fund, because to build affordable housing, you need to have infrastructure, both on-site and off-site. So we need to partner with the counties, we need to partner with the private sector to make sure that we have that infrastructure in place, whether it's additional roads, sewer, water, to ensure that we can make affordable housing happen at a particular site. And then the other one of, for people who want to go into home ownership, another bill that I'm introducing is to let people save for down payments over time, but to not have that savings be taxable. So to make it tax deductible on your income taxes. Right now, that limit is $25,000. So I want to increase that to $50,000 to $60,000 because that's what it takes to get into a single-family starter home.
Well, there are getting back to Neighbor Island issues in the focus. There are 16 representatives in the House of in the House from Neighbor Islands out of 51. What are some of the issues that are unique to the Neighbor Islands in general, just not to Kauai, but Neighbor Islands versus Oahu?
Right, and it's interesting that some of the issues that are sensitive to the neighbor islands. It's also sensitive to some of the rural areas on Oahu. And because we have ocean-related issues, shoreline impacts, because our highways many times are along the coastal areas. We have our natural resources that our visitors want and residents want to see and use. And so we have state parks that our visitors want to visit. So a lot of these areas, maybe if you're a legislator in urban Oahu, you may not have that issue. So I think we also have a lot of cesspools on the neighbor islands. So that's another area where I've introduced a bill to take a look at the study of these critical cesspools, hotspots that are failing and impacting our water quality and our nearshore waters and our recreational uses. So we really need to take a close look at what are the strategies we're going to use now that we know that there are impacts. What are we going to do about it? And what are some of the strategies that are kind of unique to these different rural areas that need to be addressed?
Well, I'm sure that over the course of this legislative session, you and your Neighbor Island colleagues will be doing a lot of yelling and jumping up and down to get their attention.
We will. Another, I think the issue with rail and the TAT issue is another area where we know that on the neighbor islands, on Kauai and I think on Maui, 1 out of every 4 residents at any given time is a tourist. So we definitely want to look at how we can help our counties.
Great. Lots of problems coming up, and we'll be back to talk about all of those things, including from the island of Maui, as we continue our series. Thank you for joining us. Aloha.
Live at the Legislature is a live half-hour weekly news program that focuses on the issues, legislation, and topics of importance emerging from this year's legislative session. Each week, state senators and representatives provide a variety of perspectives on the issues from both sides of the aisle. Tune in to Live at the Legislature weekly to get exclusive updates on what's happening in Hawaii's legislature.
Do you know your legislators? Visit capitol.hawaii.gov and enter your street name to find detailed information about your representatives and senators. From your district number to the committees and current bills your legislators have introduced, this is an easy way to stay up to date with what is happening in your community. If you're looking for detailed information concerning Hawaii State Senate and House hearings, please visit olelo.org/gov-archives. Videos are arranged by date, with the most recent at the top of the list.
Are you looking for an easy way to get involved in the legislative process? Stop by the Public Access Room located in Room 401 at the Hawaii State Capitol. Open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. in session. The Public Access Room provides citizens of Hawaii's facilities, services, and equipment to enhance their ability to participate in the legislative process. The public is welcome to track and affect legislation pending before the Hawaii State Legislature.
Aloha and welcome to Live at the Legislature. I'm Jill Kuramoto, and every week we sit down with Hawaii State Senators to talk about the issues and events of the Senate. And this morning we have Senator Brookwood Galataria. Senator Galataria is the Majority Caucus leader. He's also the Vice Chair of the Hawaiian Affairs Committee. We also have Senator Kai Kahele, and Senator Kahele is the Chair of the Higher Education Committee. He's also a proud Native Hawaiian, as well as Senator Galataria. Good morning and welcome to both of you. This morning let's talk about Hawaiian language. And last week there was a bill, Senate Bill 2687, and just to get our viewers up to date, is a bill that would allocate money to the University of Hawaii to translate the Hawaii State Constitution into the Hawaiian language. Part 2 of the measure would require that the court system provide Hawaiian language translation to anyone who requests it. So my first question is, why is this bill necessary?
Well, part 2 is a response from a recent incident that happened in the courts on Maui, where the defendant wanted to, plead his case in Olelo, Hawaii, and the courts were ill-equipped to do that. And I believe that the process needs to be, improved so that everybody has a chance to defend themselves in the language of their choice, especially because Hawaiian is an official language of Hawaii. So we need to get it right on that point. And we also need to make sure that justice is provided, not only for the defendant, but for the court system and the community as well. Because if you're well-versed in the language, as many people know, you can tie it up. So it's important that we get interpreters and translators who know what they're doing in the same spirit that the defendant is speaking, so that the court system can do the job.
Okay, your thoughts, Senator Kahele?
Last week's situation was really unfortunate. And credit to the judiciary, who has taken some bold steps since then. But even if we include this in the administrative rules and we provide for Hawaiian language court interpreters through the admin rule process, that can be changed in future generations. So I think the bill is necessary and important because it'll codify it in our state statutes. And it'll make it a requirement that we'll have to comply with state law. So
I think one of the challenges raised was finding enough Hawaiian language translators and then finding the money to pay for them. Your thoughts on that?
Well, we're celebrating 40 years of Punana Leo. So the same system that taught the defendant, we have adequate interpreters out there. I think what we've basically created is a new skill set for a full-time employee in the judiciary. We only have one Hawaiian translator who happens to live on Kauai. And the reason that happened, I believe, was because of a court case that involved a Ni'ihau native, right? So as the language becomes more proficient throughout the mainstream, we're gonna have to provide more adequate translation in the mainstream, which is the bureaucracy, which not only includes judiciary, by the way. As things begin to expand, we'll have to do things in the financial areas too that allow for the mainstreaming of the Hawaiian language and such, yeah?
Right, and that was one of my questions, was the testimony that was provided at that hearing proves the growing number of Native Hawaiian language speakers in our state. So can the government and other industries keep up with this revitalization movement of the Hawaiian language? That's your thoughts.
My thought is that was a really good example of how it works. We had a good interpreter who, with the spirit of what was said, he was able to interpret, and that's what you want in the court system. I think on the wider view, the language, as you mainstream it, can appear in things like ATM machines. Of course, mine will be insufficient funds. But in terms of just like moving things out on that level, we can do that. Hawaiian.
We have great institutions of higher education. You know, Kahakaula, Oke'elikolani on the Big Island, Hawaii Nui Akea. You know, it gives, like Senator Gallo-Terra said, another workforce pathway for Olela Hawaii students that want to major in Hawaiian language or double major with another type degree that they can use in mainstream society. And this was something that is not uncommon to Hawaii. You know, when the Kingdom of Hawaii existed, Hawaiian language was spoken throughout the Hawaiian Islands in every form of government, used in the judicial system. So, you know, since 1896, when Olela Hawaii was banned in the Department of Education, until it was became the state's official language or an additional official language in 1978, and then when the Kulukai-Opunis and the Punana-Leos were born shortly thereafter, this is just a reaffirmation of what has already existed in these islands for quite some time. So it's a work in progress. You know, there's about 20,000 fluent Olela Hawaii speakers throughout the Hawaiian Islands, and there's not enough of them. And so you're seeing Olela Hawaii being used widely here at the legislature in some of our hearing notices, in some of our hearings. We have Native Hawaiian representatives and senators that may not speak fluent Olela Hawaii, but we're trying. You know, my kids go to the Punana Leo schools, and in our family we're trying to include Olela Hawaii in our daily use in our daily lives. So
the Senate has been proactive in trying to
Senate has
incorporate
been
the
very proactive.
Hawaiian language
Absolutely.
in our everyday
Yes.
activities here.
You know, we might add that speaking Hawaiian is not exclusive to the Native Hawaiian. As the senator was mentioning, in the kingdom, everybody spoke Hawaiian. Now, for today, that means that, hey, listen, you don't have to be Native Hawaiian to love the language. And in fact, the interpreter the other day came from, I believe, where did Khalil come from? Britain. You know, and he loved the language so much. So maybe his perspective, too, is helpful in that way.
well, look at Puake Nogomeyer.
Right.
You know, a renowned professor at UH Manoa who speaks Olela Hawaii, who writes music, poetry, translations. He's not Native Hawaiian.
Yeah.
But he's our go-to guy at the University of Hawaii at Manoa if we need something done in Olela Hawaii.
That's a big Maikai.
He's a Maikai man.
Yeah.
And you hear his voice on the bus as well.
Absolutely.
So.
You can. His
job.
voice is unmistakable. You know, and so.
Well, that's wonderful. Real fast, I think one of the unique and beautiful aspects of the Hawaiian language is the many layers of interpretation. How do you ensure the integrity and accuracy of the Hawaii State Constitution should it be translated into the Hawaiian language?
That's a good question, because that was one of the big concerns of the judiciary when they were not able to deliver on the translation, because it was the kauna, it was the double meanings that happen in Hawaiian poetry and even Hawaiian daily language. You know, there's so many ways to say the sun is shining, so many ways to just say have a happy day. So we're gonna turn that over to the speakers. I believe the University of Hawaii has been tasked with that.
You know, it's whether it's the kauna or the ano, the essence of what the speaker is trying to say is very, very important. And we saw that in the hearing last week. It's difficult to be able to not just translate the words, but to also be able to embody the essence of what the speaker is trying to convey. And that's what's really important in the court system. Like Senator said, you could tie the process up. And so translating the Constitution into Olela Hawaii is, we'll have to take that into. It's going to be a challenge.
And mahalo to
One step at a
Olelo.
time.
Mahalo
Exactly.
to Olelo.
All right. Well, the Senate Bill 2687 goes before the Senate Ways and Means Committee, so stay tuned. And thank you for watching Live at the Legislature. We'll see you next week.
Mahalo nui loa.
Live at the Legislature is a live half-hour weekly news program that focuses on the issues, legislation, and topics of importance emerging from this year's legislative session. Each week, state senators and representatives provide a variety of perspectives on the issues from both sides of the aisle. Tune in to Live at the Legislature Weekly to get exclusive updates on what's happening in Hawaii's legislature.
Are you looking for an easy way to get involved in the legislative process? Stop by the Public Access Room located in Room 401 at the Hawaii State Capitol. Open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. in session. The public access room provides citizens of Hawaii's facilities, services, and equipment to enhance their ability to participate in the legislative process. The public is welcome to track and affect legislation pending before the Hawaii State Legislature.
Do you know your legislators? Visit capital.hawaii.gov and enter your street name to find detailed information about your representatives and senators. From your district number to the committees and current bills your legislators have introduced, this is an easy way to stay up to date with what is happening in your community. If you're looking for detailed information concerning Hawaii State Senate and House hearings, please visit olelo.org/gov-archives. Videos are arranged by date, with the most recent at the top of the list.
Aloha and welcome back to Live at the Legislature. I'm Ka'eo Kealoha Lindsay with the House Minority. Our guest today is Representative Cynthia Thielen, who is the Assistant Minority Floor Leader and represents District 50, which spans from Kailua to Kaneohe Bay. Good morning, Representative.
Good morning.
So our topic today is a bit of a hot one in recent months. And to begin, Representative Thielen, what is net neutrality?
Net neutrality is short for internet neutrality. Most people aren't aware of the term, or if they are, they've kind of heard it in passing. But right now, it's become an extremely important issue in Hawaii and nationally. Basically, you sign up with an internet service provider, an ISP, like Hawaiian Tel, AT&T, Verizon, Oceanic, Spectrum. Your ISP cannot block or choose what content you see or charge more for content on the internet. Let me say that again. Your ISP cannot block or control or choose what content you see on the internet. This is what net neutrality means, that information is available fairly and equally to the viewer. Basically, when you sign up with your ISP, you're entitled to access to the entire internet and its content at one set price. That's another very important thing. You aren't priced in tiers. There aren't discriminatory pricing structures. You pay one price for your internet content. What you do pay is a particular price for the speed in which you access the internet. But that's not content. Content is equally available. Websites, software, bloggers, social media sites have equal access to the internet. Twitter, Facebook, Netflix, etc. And again, you get access to the internet at the speed you pay for through your ISP, your internet provider.
Is it at risk?
Absolutely, it's at risk, and that's where people are probably not that aware of what has happened. The Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, repealed the nation's net neutrality rules in December. There's been some pushback, but it's been not as strong or as vocal as I would hope it would be. Anyone who uses the internet is under attack on internet freedom and democracy and a movement towards censored content. That's the scary part, a movement towards censored content of what you will be able to access on the internet. Hawaii and 21 other states filed a suit against the FCC to block the rollback of net neutrality. In addition, last month, I led legislators from both sides of the aisle through a letter I drafted to urge Governor Ige to proclaim that net neutrality would be preserved in Hawaii by his signing of an executive order. 21 legislators, bipartisan, sent this letter to Governor Ige and urging him to sign an executive order that would keep net neutrality in place for Hawaii. The executive order would require internet service providers operating in Hawaii to abide by net neutrality rules. I hand-delivered it to Governor Ige's office and met with his chief of staff. And Ige's signature on an executive order would place him, along with New York and Montana, their governors have signed executive orders to keep net neutrality in their states. The reason we have to do it by executive order is legislative action here takes so long that it might not, a law might not be in place until June.
And how does net neutrality affect people?
The FCC's repeal of net neutrality could bring an end to equal, unlimited access to public websites, higher fees for everyone who uses the internet and social media, and you'd be forced to buy packages similar to your TV channel lineups with basic premium packages that people have to buy to see the content that they want. The internet providers, the internet service providers would become the gatekeepers. They would be the gatekeepers that control the content. HawaiiTel, AT&T, Oceanic, Spectrum, they would decide what internet access and content you get for the basic package. Innovation and ideas would be squashed or really priced out of existence for the consumer. Extra costs for higher speeds in addition to base fees, the demise of startups and small businesses with small website budgets, and the demise of choices, the end of choices for the consumer. It would be a situation where monopolies with unmatched funding, say like Amazon and Google, could determine the marketplace that would be on the internet, and censored or low prioritized content that bury information and stop citizens from learning truths.
And how does net neutrality affect small businesses?
Well, I asked my son, Dave Thielen, who grew up here and is in Boulder, Colorado, and I said, how would net neutrality affect small businesses? Dave was a former senior developer at Microsoft, and he is the founder and the CEO of Windward Studios. He grew up on the Windward side, which is a computer software company based in Boulder, Colorado. And he grew his business from himself to about 40 employees. Dave's quotes are right there for the viewer to see. And I hope the viewer will pay attention to that, because these companies, the innovators in our community, could go out of business.
And so what's next for you, Representative Cynthia Thielen?
Governor Ige is holding a news conference today at 11:30 to announce what he is going to do about net neutrality in response to the letter that I drafted and obtained the signatures of 21 of my colleagues. My hope is that Governor Ige will follow the role of Montana and New York and declare net neutrality stays in place in Hawaii. Aloha to all of you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.